School, a place that's supposed to be safe, a place filled with laughter, friends, and memories. But for some people, school is where their nightmares began. These are 3 terrifying true stories of haunted schools. Stories from real people who swear what they experienced still haunts them to this day. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and try not to look behind you. I went to a small-town high school tucked deep in northern Oregon. The town itself was quiet, the kind of place where fog rolls in from the forest and never seems to leave, where the streetlights flicker even when there's no wind. You'd walk home from school and see your own breath on a spring day. It was that kind of place. The school was old, too old. Parts of it were built in the early 1920s, back when the town was still finding its footing. Red brick walls that had gone dull and rough, windows with that wavy glass that distorts everything on the other side, and floorboards that creaked like they were alive. The hallways smelled faintly of old paper and varnish. Even when the heaters rattled and hissed, you could feel a cool draft sliding over your ankles like fingers trailing along the floor. By junior year, I was in the school band. That meant long hours in the music wing after everyone else had gone home. The music wing sat apart from the main building. 2 long hallways connected by a narrow courtyard where weeds pushed up through the concrete. At night, it felt like a different world over there. The echoes changed. Every sound felt just a little bit off. There was one room none of us liked being in after dark. Room 12, the old piano room. Even in the daytime, the temperature dipped when you crossed its threshold. Your fingers would sting on the keys if you weren't wearing sleeves, and at night, if you lingered too long in the hallway outside, you could sometimes hear a single piano note echo from inside. Our teacher, Mr. Hadley, always brushed it off. "Air moving through the strings," he said once, not even looking up from his stack of sheet music. Old instruments make noises. We all wanted to believe him. But one night I found out the truth. It was late, almost 8 p.m. The sun had set hours ago and the fog outside had turned the windows into flat gray mirrors. I was rehearsing alone for an upcoming performance. Everyone else had already left. The janitor had finished sweeping and left a faint smell of lemon cleaner hanging in the hallway. I liked staying late sometimes. The silence helped me focus, but that night the silence felt heavier than usual. I remember finishing a song and lowering my hands, the last note ringing out against the walls like it was trying to escape. And then, under that note, I heard something else. A whisper. Not loud enough to make out words, just soft and wet, like someone exhaling against your ear. I spun around, my heart thudding, but the hallway beyond the doorway was empty. Just rows of lockers. The exit sign glowing faintly red at the far end. I shook it off and sat back down. My hands were trembling a little, but I forced myself to start the song again. That's when I heard it, the sound of a piano behind me. One slow key, pressed down. It came from the far corner, one from the other piano. The one no one used anymore. It sat under a heavy gray tarp like a body under a sheet. It hit one note, then another. A slow, hesitant rhythm, like someone unsure if they wanted to be heard. I froze, my skin went cold. For a moment I couldn't move. I could feel every beat of my heart in my throat. Then forcing myself to breathe, I stood up and stepped closer to the old piano. The tarp shifted slightly as I approached, even though there was no draft. With shaking hands, I pulled the tarp back. The piano underneath was coated in dust thick enough to dull the black of the keys. No footprints on the floor, no sign anyone had touched it. But as I stared down at the keys, I noticed something in the window above the piano, not outside. Reflected in the glass, a girl, standing right behind me. She was pale, with dark hair tied back in a ribbon, wearing a pleated skirt and a crisp white blouse like an old uniform from the 1950s. Her shoes were scuffed, like she'd been walking hallways for decades. She stood perfectly still, but her reflection was sharper than mine, too sharp, like a photograph pasted onto the window. I turned slowly, my mouth dry, and there she was. Her skin looked like wax under the dim lights. Her eyes weren't angry or sad, just empty, deep, like looking into the bottom of a well. The smell of smoke hit me then, faint like burned wood. She tilted her head just slightly, her ribbon slipping loose. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Don't play my song." Every light in the room went out at once. Not flickering, just dead. The hum of the fluorescent bulbs stopped. The only sound was my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I bolted. I didn't even remember grabbing my bag. My footsteps echoed down the hallway, louder than they should have been, like the building was hollow. I didn't stop until I was outside in the courtyard, the fog clinging to my face. When I turned back toward room 12, the little glass window in the door was glowing faintly. And behind it, the old piano was playing again, a slow, broken melody off-key. The next day, I told Mr. Hadley everything. I expected him to laugh. He didn't. He set his sheet music down and rubbed his temples. "Her name was Clara Jennings," he said quietly. "She was a student here. 1956. There was a fire in that room. She didn't make it out." He looked me dead in the eye. "She played piano in competitions. The night she died, she was rehearsing her final piece. The same one you were practicing. He told me every few years someone hears her song, and if they keep playing it, things get worse." Then he did something I didn't expect. He opened his desk drawer and took out a folded newspaper clipping. The headline read, "Local girl dies in music room fire, faulty wiring blamed." Below it, a black and white photo of a smiling girl in a pleated skirt and ribbon. Clara. My stomach turned. It was her. I never touched that piece again. Even now, years later, I avoid any version of it when it comes on the radio. And every time I passed room 12 after that night, I swear I still heard faint notes drifting through the door. Sometimes just one. Sometimes a full, broken melody as if she was still in there practicing. And on the coldest days, if I walked by slowly enough, I could smell the faintest hint of smoke. When I was in 8th grade, my middle school had a door that everyone whispered about. It was tucked at the end of the main hallway, painted gray, old and chipped, with a small rusted sign above it that said B1. No one really knew what it was for. It didn't match any of the other doors, and it was always locked. Over time, the stories started spreading. Some said it led to an old fallout shelter from the Cold War. Others said it was a forgotten storage room filled with broken desks and outdated projectors. But then there were the darker rumors. One of our older teachers, Mrs. Ross, told us once, half-jokingly, that back in the 1960s, the school had something called basement detention. It was for the kids who got into serious trouble, the ones they didn't want around others. She said it was shut down after something bad happened down there, but she never said what. We laughed at the time, but after that, everyone looked at the door differently. No one really got close to it. That changed on the last Friday of October, right before Halloween. It was cold that week. The kind of cold that seeps into your bones even when you're still inside. The hallways were half lit since most of the teachers had gone home early for a staff meeting. Me and my two friends, Caleb and Jenna, were hanging around waiting for a ride. Caleb was the troublemaker of the group, always trying to get us into something stupid for a laugh. Jenna was quieter, the kind of person who always second-guessed things but went along anyway because she hated being left out. We were sitting near the vending machines when Caleb suddenly stopped mid-conversation and squinted down the hall. "Hey," he said, "isn't that the B1 door?" Sure enough, it was, but something was different. The janitor's cart was parked next to it, mop leaning against the wall, and the door was cracked open. Just a few inches. We could see nothing but black inside. "Let's go look," Caleb said immediately. Jenna shook her head. "No way. You remember what Mrs. Ross said?" Caleb grinned. "Yeah, which means it's probably just a broom closet. Come on, let's prove it." Before I could even think, he was already halfway down the hall. Me and Jenna followed reluctantly, our footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. When I got close enough, I caught a whiff of the air drifting from inside. It smelled wrong, like metal and mold, rust, old water. Caleb pushed the door open a little more. It groaned loudly on its hinges. Behind it was a narrow concrete staircase that went straight down into pitch black. There were no lights, not even a bulb hanging from the ceiling. Just this heavy, stale air pouring up from below. When I exhaled, my breath came out white. "Dude," I said, "it's freezing in there." Caleb grinned again, the kind of grin that meant he was scared but pretending not to be. "Let's just go down a few steps. $5 says there's nothing." We pulled out our phones and turned on the flashlights. The beams cut through the dust, revealing walls streaked with old paint and dark stains. The first thing I noticed were the signs. They were old and faded, written in block letters. "Detention area, no entry. Silence must be maintained. Do not leave without permission." It didn't look like any kind of storage room. We went down halfway, before the steps leveled out into a small landing. There was another door below, metal and dented, slightly ajar. As we got closer, I noticed something weird. Faint lines carved into the wall. At first, I thought they were cracks, but when I held my light closer, I saw they were scratch marks, dozens of them. Tiny, uneven lines. Some looked like letters, like someone had tried to write their name but gave up halfway through. Jenna whispered, This is messed up. Let's go back. I was about to agree when a sound echoed from below. Bang. A door slamming somewhere deeper in the dark. The sound bounced off the concrete walls and made my stomach drop. We all froze. Caleb tried to laugh it off, but it came out shaky. Probably the air. Or pipes or something. Then we heard another sound, near faint, wet, and shaky. Someone was crying. It wasn't loud, but it was close enough that we could make out the words. Please, I'll be good. I'll be good.